Welcome to Missing on Monday, where the details of a new missing persons case will be explored each week. Some of the content covered may be sensitive. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, welcome back to Missing on Monday. This is Candace.
And this is Ashley. And today we are going to talk about a very interesting story. But first, we're bringing you another round of shit you don't really need to know.
So this week is my week to ask Ashley a question. So here we go. We should probably do some other game music like dun 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 dun.
That's a good idea.
Or not, whatever. Once again, we'll talk to the producers about that. Okay, here we go. Over 1,700, so 1,700 guys each year visit the emergency room with this uncomfortable but common injury.
ED. I'm kidding. Continue.
A. Genitals getting caught in zippers. B. Objects lodged in the ass. C. Erections lasting more than 4 hours. D. Severe bleeding from manscaping mishaps.
Okay, so I don't think it's D, but A, B, and C all seem so likely. Like, you work in the emergency room, and I can almost guarantee that you have seen all three of those things.
I have seen one of them on multiple occasions.
I'm going to go with the foreign object in the ass because I think that a lot of men really enjoy ass play and they just don't want to admit to it.
Okay, so what I was going to say, the one that I have seen on multiple occasions
is the ass play.
Is B, objects lodged in ass, but
no.
It's not the answer. I thought for sure it was the answer. I was like, I'm gonna know this.
I was certain.
The answer is A, genitals getting caught in zippers. So not quite as much fun.
So stupid sometimes.
I know, darn it.
We love them though.
Yeah, but I will say I have seen more objects stuck in the arse than I have genitals and zippers. So I don't know.
Maybe we live in the wrong part of the country. This feels
in
like
Washington,
maybe
they really like ass play.
This could be like a Wyoming thing. I don't know. They probably have
nothing against Wyoming.
No, don't they like ride horses and shit and like,
oh yeah, they probably spend a lot more time outside, like wildernessy.
Yeah, zip unzip, zip unzip, pissing in the world. I don't know. Anyway,
well, I mean, we know why like Ryan never has that problem because his zipper's always down.
Correct. And every time I point that out, he goes, "Ha, gotcha." Like, no, I'm just trying to let you know. But all right, yes, you're correct, honey. I was looking.
Airflow.
All right. So today we are going to talk about Ashley Loring Heavyrunner. This story is so crazy, and I'm just going to ask you to bear with us and try to keep track of everything that we're going to talk about because, my God, it took quite a while to figure this one out. And anyway. 24-year-old Ashley Loring Heavyrunner was last seen on Monday, June 5th, 2017, on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation in Browning, Montana. She was enrolled in Blackfeet Community College studying environmental science. Ashley is described as an indigenous woman with brown hair and brown eyes, 5'2" tall, and weighing 90 pounds. She was last seen wearing a t-shirt and jeans.
Ashley has a very large family. Very large. Like a lot. Including her aunt, Lissa, older sister, Kimberly, mother, Loxie, and grandmother, whose name is also Loxie. Even though Ashley was young and made mistakes and she had mood swings, that kind of stuff, just like any other young adult or especially woman, I mean, we're pretty hormonal.
Mm-hmm. Can confirm.
Yeah. She was smart, resourceful young woman, and with a heart and a commitment to helping others. She had a very close relationship with her sister Kimberly Heavyrunner Loring. So when Kimberly took a 3-month trip to Morocco to visit her future husband in the spring of 2017, the sisters developed a pattern of regular phone calls. That continued until just a few days before Kimberly's arrival home.
So Ashley planned to leave later that summer for Missoula. She was planning on living with Kimberly while she studied environmental science at the University of Montana. Sadly, she had ended a long-term relationship, which left her completely devastated. Her sister Kimberly said it was like Ashley's world was ending. Ashley cried super often. She kept to herself. She stopped going to her classes at Blackfeet Community College. And then she got in with the wrong crowd, which included some people who were rumored to sell and use drugs like meth. These people were also quite a bit older than her. In early June, she called Kimberly saying she needed some money. Kimberly couldn't send it from Morocco, but she promised that she would be home in just a couple of days.
And at a certain point, Ashley stopped communicating with family. Even though it wasn't totally out of character for Ashley, Kimberly really started to worry when she didn't hear from her. Her grandmother, Loxie, her grandmother, Loxie, is the one that really did most of her raising, reported her missing at the tribal police station in Browning, Montana, the reservation's largest town. She says police told her that Ashley didn't want to be found. That word got around town she was part of a bad crowd and probably just off partying somewhere. When Kimberly got back, she organized a search party. Ashley's family and friends searched the wilderness looking for clues, but unfortunately had little to go on.
I just want to say, how shitty is that? I feel like Indigenous women get such a bad rap. They're just treated like, bringing it back to Mary Johnson, they focus on all of these negative things and all of these preconceived notions and stereotypes. Who's to say that Ashley was out partying and she just didn't want to be found? It's just,
well, in all honesty, a lot of the story, besides the amount of people involved, I guess, truly was bringing me right back to kind of the same situations that were happening. So it sounds like it sounds like it's a unfortunate circumstance on reservation land, at least in the cases that we have done.
When we spoke to her aunt Lissa, it became really clear right away that there's so much that happens on the reservation, more than we could possibly talk about on our podcast, but there are some crazy stories. Montana specifically is home to 8 tribal nations. There are 66,279 members, and they're spread out over 7 reservations, covering over 8.1 million acres.
Lord.
Million. That is, I can't even wrap my head around how much land that is. That is oh my God. Even though the reservations are so big, they are virtually invisible as far as what the members are doing and the lives of their tribes. It just, their day-to-day happenings kind of go unnoticed. The Blackfeet Reservation in Northwest Montana is home to the Blackfeet Nation, which is one of the largest tribes in the United States. But also, this area is known for its high crime and drug use. As the locals say, if you want to get away with murder, go to Browning.
And after all of the stories that we have heard, I can see why they say that.
Yeah.
So local law enforcement was slow to respond and engage. I will say they have a small department considering the land that their department needs to cover. Really, the only evidence that was recovered was a sweater. It was covered in oil and buried underground, was lost for months, and then miraculously recovered. When Kimberly started speaking up about the lack of help they were getting from the BIA, which, so that you all know who the BIA is, it is the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
What makes Ashley's case so hard is, we've talked about this a million times before, the way that the criminal justice system works on the reservation is just so hard to navigate. Several agencies, from neighboring sheriff's departments to the FBI, can be involved in solving just one crime, which leads to confusion, a lack of accountability, and kind of the ability to pass the buck. So when a Native American woman disappears, nobody knows whose responsibility it is. It just depends on where the crime took place. Tribes have virtually no authority over non-native people who hurt them on their own land. So if Ashley was harmed on the reservation, the federal government is pretty much obligated to investigate. But if she was harmed somewhere else, other agencies like the sheriff's department would need to take the lead. But if nobody knows where or even if a crime took place, it falls to tribal police with help from the BIA to gather evidence. And you can see where the confusion and all of that lies.
So much frustration. Despite the fact that drug use is very common in Browning, Ashley really wasn't known for using drugs. It wasn't up until, I believe it was about 6 months leading up into her disappearance that she started using. She had that super difficult breakup with her boyfriend, and she struggled with that a lot. Everyone thought they were the couple. They were the couple that was going to make it. They were the,
Like,
I
if
think
anybody can make it, they will.
yeah, exactly. Just exactly that. But unfortunately, they didn't. After that, Ashley started hanging out with a different, much older crowd. The first set of, I'm going to say the first set of people because this is where Ashley and I need you to bear with us. There is a lot of names and a lot of people. I don't want to harp on that too much. We're trying to put this out as clear and concise as we possibly can.
So what's
So please.
happening here is, on this specific reservation, there's a very large crowd of people who all kind of run together. They're all intermingled with each other and they're in the drug scene. And so there's a lot of stories that run together, a lot of stories that contradict each other, and ultimately a lot of people who are weighing in, and some may be telling the truth and some may be trying to skew it so that the truth isn't found. So we are going to do our best to present what we could decipher from all of this information to you.
Yes. So we are going to talk about Tashina Running Crane, Sam McDonald, and Paul Valenzuela.
Tashina and Paul are ex-spouses who had close ties to Ashley. At a certain point, Paul and Ashley became super close. Tashina was not happy about this. So she became super vocal on social media, saying she caught Ashley with her husband and just being really volatile. Tashina posted a video to YouTube, which was later taken down, claiming that Paul killed Ashley and he was framing her. 3 months after Ashley disappeared, Paul was sent to prison for a prior gun conviction. Tashina did an interview with ABC in late 2017 where she claims that she had nothing to do with the disappearance, that she didn't know about an affair. The relationship between Paul and Ashley was purely platonic as far as the family knows. They believe that Paul was just choosing Ashley over Tashina, which led to her showcasing some extreme jealousy.
There is an order to how missing person cases are handled on the reservation. So, of course, because it's reservation land, first, tribal police have to be the ones to investigate. Then the BIA. Then the BIA can involve the FBI from there. Lissa anticipates meeting the third or fourth FBI agent that has been assigned to the case coming up this next month. Unfortunately, despite the FBI's involvement, there has been a lot of runaround, and the family has had to retell this series of events time and time again to several FBI agents. It's really exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
Lissa specified that she's extremely confused. The family keeps having to turn over the same information over and over and over and over every time a new FBI agent is assigned to the case. I totally understand their frustration.
It sucks. And honestly, it doesn't make a lot of sense because even though we know we've talked about this before, there's always a lot of miscommunication between different law enforcement entities. It doesn't make any sense that the FBI itself wouldn't have some sort of record keeping in place to where the family only needs to hand over the information one time and then it's on record for all future investigators to see, like the timeline of Ashley's disappearance, for instance. There's
The only thing, honestly, that I can think is if you are a new investigator coming onto a case, this is
you
my
might
thought.
want it retold.
You can go through what everybody else has collected, but what if there was one minute thing said or that somebody has to say that is not in there, and they're hoping that maybe that they will get something that somebody else did not get?
Yes.
That's the only thing that I can think.
Lissa told us that prior to Ashley's disappearance, she dedicated a lot of time to helping find missing Indigenous women. Ashley actually got some money from a scholarship because of her writing capabilities on the subject.
Lissa has dedicated all of her waking moments basically to not only finding Ashley, but to also find other missing and murdered Indigenous persons. In her search for Ashley, she and a group of others discovered that there were actually underground tunnels running through Browning, which enable people to traffic young girls and women. In fact, one woman came up to her needing help, and it turned out that she had been trafficked and she was missing for actually 2 years. This woman told Alyssa that she had seen Ashley, but unfortunately, over the course of the 2 years that she was missing, she was given some kind of shot from the traffickers, obviously drug related shot, that kept her in and out of reality. So because of that, unfortunately, Alyssa wasn't really sure how reliable the information really was. Alyssa told us that she does not believe that Ashley was trafficked. She described Ashley as a fighter, as someone who would take no shit. And although she was small, she was pretty freaking aggressive. Kind of like a chihuahua, she described her. Lissa, Lissa said that she believes if someone had tried to take Ashley to traffic her, she would either have escaped or she may have been killed trying to. She believes that whatever happened to her on the reservation and that she is still there. She believes that it was a crime of passion fueled by jealousy.
So there's a very distinct list of people that Lissa encouraged us to look into. First up is a woman named Rosie. So shortly after Ashley went missing, Lissa was hanging out with her sister Kimberly and the kids. She went to the store really quick, and then she got a phone call from a lady saying that she had spoken to someone named Rosie, who had told her explicitly that she had a part in Ashley's murder. That's pretty shocking. So Lissa and this woman decide to three-way call Rosie, with Lissa on mute, of course, so Rosie didn't know that she was listening. Rosie thought that she was just talking to her sister. And when the sister questioned Rosie, Rosie said, "Why are you guys still on that? She's buried. Why does it matter?" Unfortunately, that phone call wasn't recorded. And after the fact, Rosie denied ever having said any of that. We do have a screenshot of the message where Rosie tells her sister that she had a part in Ashley's murder. Rosie is also a friend of Tashina, and she is partners with a man named Vernon Wagner. This is important because the last video taken of Ashley was at Vernon's house on June 6th. So this was the night before Ashley went missing.
When Ashley first went missing, Lissa received an anonymous message on Facebook saying that they had seen Ashley with a man named Joe Gobert. This message came on June 7th. This person also said that they saw Joe pumping gas at the local gas station. Lissa actually met up with the gentleman at the casino who told her that he was doing work and kept seeing Ashley, Joe, and Paul showing up in Joe's truck. At one point, Kimberly, Ashley's sister, had convinced Joe to speak with her. However, when she arrived and Joe saw that there was law enforcement with her, he immediately shut down. He was like, He said he couldn't talk. He continued on saying that he has kids and his family and whatnot. Lissa believes that Joe backed out talking to them because he was scared that someone would come after him and his family and children. And also that, realistically, he may get in trouble.
Which is kind of funny because it doesn't sound like too many people get in trouble on the reservation.
Seriously.
When they deserve to. A week before Ashley went missing, Mike Lanier and Sam McDonald picked her up from a man named Alvin's house. Lissa used to date Alvin's brother. So she was actually really close with his sister, Robin. So one night, Robin calls Lissa and says that she was with Ashley before Mike and Sam picked her up at Alvin's house. Robin said Ashley was acting really weird because she was fiending for drugs, basically. She kept telling her to just stay, wait, it would get there soon, just hang out. But Ashley ended up calling Mike and Sam and leaving with them. It's important to note that Alvin was gruesomely murdered about a year ago.
Real bad.
He was chopped up.
I was going to say, we're not going to get into the details, but
there you
go. Sam McDonald has a son named Doug McDonald. After Ashley went missing, Doug would frequently be seen at parties, drunk and crying. And he was heard saying that his dad had done something. One of Sam's neighbors saw Doug on top of his dad's cabin, and his dad was telling him, "I'm going to kill you. Stop running your mouth, or I'm going to tell everyone what you did." The family also received reports that Doug had been seen walking up and down a gravel road, asking, basically like talking to the
To the
universe.
wind. Yeah.
Yes, like just talking out loud, basically asking why would they do this? Why would they do this? Kind of over and over, like, you know, you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
One person who had been working at a local restaurant told Lissa that she had been dating Doug over the summer, and she saw a blonde girl in a house and overheard this girl talking about putting someone in trash bags. This blonde girl later turned out to be Tashina, who had dyed her hair blonde and was trying to convince people she was Ashley. Tashina had a super odd infatuation with her.
Honestly, I mean,
I think she was just jealous.
I think she was
Ashley's
jealous.
gorgeous.
She's a beautiful young woman. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. But also, I don't get it because I wouldn't do that. So, Lissa got a phone call from a girl asking if she knew a man named Sean Papillon. She said yes. And the girl told her that she had recently brought her sister home because her sister was she was addicted to drugs and she was trying to get her clean. While the sister was attempting to sober up, she told the girl that Sean Papillon gave Ashley a bad shot of dope and she overdosed and died. She continued on saying that they put her in a truck that belonged to a man named Mark Weatherwax. And then they push it off into like a cliff, but like a man-made one with Ashley in the truck. The police went out there and they searched that area and they said that they didn't find anything. Sean claims that they were in a car accident, which caused Ashley's death, but also confirms that they did push the car off of the cliff.
Y'all can see where we're going with there being so many avenues of stories.
There's a lot of people covering this up.
It's so bizarre. I don't know how many times I can say that. Should we just name this episode Bizarre? I don't freaking even know.
Probably.
Clay Flemond owns land in Browning where Tashina and Paul had been living. They were living in a trailer that is believed to be the site of Ashley's murder, according to Lissa. Ashley's family has uncovered numerous pieces of evidence in that trailer, articles of evidence that, shockingly enough, still remain in the trailer. Because even after everything was turned over to the police never did anything about it. When they told the family that they had actually collected everything. And we're talking about bloody jackets, sheets that were bloody. There was a lot of bloody things that she talked about. This also includes bullet holes in the wall, also bloody floorboards. It's a lot.
And we have photos of all of this.
We do.
That we will show you.
There are also scratch marks on the wall that are real visible. Clay has been cleared of any involvement due to the fact that he was incarcerated at the time of Ashley's disappearance.
So now we're going to move on to what we and Lissa collectively feel is the most likely story in the case of Ashley's disappearance.
It just seems like it's the most solid and plausible. Yeah.
There's no portion of it where you're like, what?
Like, how in the heck?
So Lissa has a cousin named Jonna who has stage 4 cancer. Jonna had recently bought this new black Dodge Avenger prior to Ashley's disappearance. And while she was in the hospital and on what she and pretty much everyone else thought was her deathbed, she called Lissa and said that she needed to talk to her about something. And on a side note, Jonna is still with us. She said that Tashina and Rosie, and this is a different Rosie from the Rosie that we spoke about earlier. She said that Tashina and Rosie were renting her car for drugs, and in return, Tashina would give her a teener. She said,
it's an amount of drugs for y'all that don't know.
Thank you, because I had no idea.
I just had to side note tell Ashley what it was.
So Jonna said the day that they took her car, she was really pissed off about it because they were gone for like a really long time. But also, after they gave her the teener, she said she felt really weird and she fell asleep. And the reason this is weird is because it's supposed to be an upper. She should not have fallen asleep. Jonna said when Tashina and Rosie got back, they were acting like really hyper and saying things like, "What do we do? What do we do? Let's go back to Sam's." At that moment, this is when Tashina posted on Facebook that she just caught her niece with her husband, that Ashley and Paul were together and Ashley could go ahead and have him. When Tashina went back into the house, Jonna confronted her about the shot that she had been given, saying that it wasn't what she asked for. Like, why did I fall asleep? That shouldn't have happened. Tashina apologized and said that she would make it up to her and give her a shot of dope, but could she keep using the car? Jonna said she could. And then she later saw Tashina and Rosie outside cleaning out the car. They were like dumping buckets of water out of the car. But Jonna said the water coming out of these buckets was like a reddish orange, similar to what you would see like if you were cleaning up blood from a deer, if you were out hunting.
That's how Lissa explained it, because obviously they're native, they hunt, and
that's,
they've all seen that.
So later that day, Rosie and Tashina were pulled over in that Dodge Avenger, and Rosie ended up going to jail on a warrant. So it can actually be proven that they were driving the car. This is like the one piece of information that we have that can be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. Jonna also said that after that day, she never saw her car again.
So Paul White is somewhat of a friend of Lissa. It's kind of a funny relationship that is there, to say the least. Although typically he does not want to talk to her when he's high, because he gets real paranoid and he thinks that she's like part of the FBI and trying to set him up, which is totally like a normal
addict paranoia.
Yeah, side effect of the drugs. But when he's sober, he treats her like she's a real good friend. Paul White said to Lissa, "Did you hear about the black Dodge Avenger? It's over at RJ's house. I believe they burned it." He said, "I had that Avenger out here with me where I was staying because I was going to switch engines over for Paul and T as in Tashina." Kyle Sinclair, the BIA officer, who we later found out was actually sleeping with Tashina, showed up and started questioning him about the car, which spooked him because obviously he's an addict and talking to law enforcement's not really what you want to do. He said he took the car and he had just pushed it out to the road, basically like washing his hands of it.
So then the car changes hands. A man named Sheldon picks up the car. Then it changes hands again and it goes to another guy named Kelly. And then finally it lands at its final destination out at RJ's. RJ gets the car, and then he starts freaking out, saying Ashley's spirit was still in the car. So he decided to burn it. And for Lissa and us, truthfully, this is the story that makes the most sense. Lissa said that they had some drawings sent to them from people claiming to know where Ashley's body is. And the drawings match up to their family ranch, the Loring Ranch in Twin Lakes, Montana. Prior to Ashley's disappearance, her grandfather's property, that Loring Ranch, had been overtaken by drug dealers who were basically using it to buy and sell drugs, which, side note, is really unfortunate because at this point her grandfather had passed away, but he was very anti-drug, anti-alcohol. Like, he was running a tight ship on that ranch. And then he passed, another family member took ownership of the property, and it just kind of all went to hell in a handbasket. So Paul said that he had showed up to the ranch and he was trying to get into the house because he's an addict. He's trying to get his shit. And he saw Ashley. He said that she was in the basement on some boxes and he thought that she was sleeping. He realized that she wasn't sleeping when they started pounding on the door, like super hard, and she didn't wake up. There were also 2 eyewitnesses who saw the Dodge Avenger, mind you, brand new Dodge Avenger, and it had holes cut out of its seats. So then when the tribal police showed up, they refused to take the vehicle. Paul was supposed to be doing some work on the vehicle. And when police showed up, they were like, well, we can't take the vehicle because the work hasn't been completed and you haven't been paid or whatever.
And he's like, oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. You can take
no,
it. He's like,
I
go ahead.
I haven't even started the work. Like, please
Have it.
take it.
And they would not take it.
And they wouldn't take it. And then all of a sudden it shows up incinerated on RJ's property. Weird.
Don't think it's a coincidence. It's a brand new car.
Right. Brand new.
Yeah. So the most recent update that has come from Ashley's disappearance actually comes from Paul Valenzuela's sister, Prima. As of now, Paul is the main suspect of the case. Prima told Lissa that despite the fact that they don't know each other, she really wants to help find Ashley. She said that while they were searching, if they came across dog bones or deer bones, to keep looking. Basically, she is saying that she believes that animal bones were placed on top of wherever they buried Ashley's body in an effort to basically like try to throw off the scent or throw off the dogs or whatever. If they started digging there, or maybe like if they did dig there and they saw those bones, they would stop there and move on.
Right.
Lissa did tell us that the cadaver dogs, though, are trained to identify human bones and decipher between what is human and what is animal. Lissa believes that Ashley is buried somewhere on her grandfather's land. The area is covered in snow on the ground, and unfortunately, it's too cold to dig. Like, the ground is frozen freaking solid.
Also, I want to point out that there are 2 different Pauls in this story. There's Paul Valenzuela, who is the older gentleman that was married to Tashina and had a close friendship with Ashley. And then there's the other Paul,
Paul
White, who was friends / not friends with Lissa, the drug addict.
Depending if he was high or not.
Yes, showing up to the ranch to get drugs. So Paul, Tashina's ex-husband, is the one that's the main suspect. But if you ask the family, Tashina is the main suspect. I think one of the most disappointing aspects of Ashley's case is the fact that police have shown, tribal police in particular, have shown such gross indifference toward it. There was Okay, so the police officer who was sleeping with Tashina, he used to be a drug dealer, like a notorious drug dealer,
The biggest
like
drug dealer
on the
on
reservation.
the reservation. And now
And
he's a
now
police
he's a police
officer.
officer.
Like, let me just tell you, people, you put your mind to something, you can do it. You could be anything
Right.
you want to be.
Anything is possible. No wonder Kanye West decided to run for president. So, that trailer, the one that's on Clay's land that Tashina and Paul were staying in, it's abandoned right now, but it's still there. And it is still, to this day, full of evidence, despite the fact that tribal police said they removed it and they'd been going through it. They haven't. It's just there. The frustrating one. It's always frustrating when you have something like this happen. And I think that was kind of the biggest takeaway that we had from our conversation with Lissa. We've been talking to her for quite a while, and it's not just Ashley, it's so many people missing and murdered on tribal land, and Ashley's story is just one of many, but that doesn't make it any less important. And it doesn't, the fact that not only is evidence being mishandled, it's being blatantly ignored.
Exactly.
And that is disturbing.
And the thing is, Ashley, she's an adult, and yeah, she was hanging out with the wrong crowd. She was going through a rough time in her life, but she was a very smart, determined girl. And so I am going to throw this piece out there. Honestly, it wasn't talked about too much because it was very recent before her disappearance that it was found out. Ashley had found out recently before her disappearance that she was pregnant. And she did want to get clean for her child.
And there was also some claims that, so when Ashley was in high school, she was in a vehicle that was shot at by these two brothers. She was nearly shot. She nearly lost her life in that vehicle. And then years later, prior to her disappearance, she went over to this cabin with a duffel bag full of guns to sell to these brothers. This was supposed to be like a setup. It was supposed to be basically Ashley was going to be like the scapegoat for if they got caught, because she was young, she was cute. She would have a lesser sentence, but it didn't end up working out that way. Something happened where Tashina inserted herself. The whole thing got kind of scrambled. But this is just one of many, many, many stories.
And also in their efforts, I know that we did talk about their efforts looking for Ashley, but in all honesty, it's gotten so much bigger than that. And they have found so many other things, trafficked women, other bodies. And it's our understanding that there's a couple bodies that were found that were never even investigated. Like, the bodies are still there.
As of today, there's another family member that has gone missing. Just this week alone, I think there's been a handful of people that have gone missing or have been kidnapped.
There was two, I think it was 12-year-old girls that were kidnapped, or around that age, I believe.
And it's happening so frequently. Young girls and women are being taken. They're being taken advantage of. They're being trafficked. They're being sold by their parents in some instances.
Oh my God.
And it's sick and it's sad. And, we don't know what happened to Ashley. But the fact of the matter is, the crimes that are happening to Native women, Indigenous women, should not be ignored. Ashley's story shouldn't be ignored. Nothing that happens to an Indigenous person should be ignored simply because of where they come from, what their past is, what they're involved with. So yeah, if you have any kind of heavy equipment that's able to dig in like frozen solid ground, let us know. We will send you over to Browning and get you in touch with the Loring Ranch, and you can get to digging because we want to find Ashley.
We do. So once again, I know that was a whole lot to digest. A lot of people involved in the case, and we really truly did try to make it as clear and concise as possible. I apologize if you're confused in any manner. We did the best we could.
We're confused too, and honestly, so is the family. There's a lot happening with this.
Yes. And there's honestly even more information that we couldn't even include because there was no way to include it without just confusing you further.
And also posting a 3-hour episode.
Basically that. So I hope on that note, you all have a very happy Monday. I appreciate you showing up again. Please, 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 if you love us, rate us 5 stars. If you don't love us, you don't have to rate us 5 stars. If you have any constructive criticism, shoot us an email. missingonmondaypodcast@gmail.com.
We will potentially provide you with updates as this story progresses. It sounds like there could be some changes in the near future, and if that is the case, we will let you know. But until then, we hope that you have an amazing week, and we will talk to you next Monday.
Yes. Ta-ta.
Adios.
Don't go missing.